I because I want to share three things I would focus on if I were to be newly awakened, newly aware during these times and days. So, I personally started my conscious spiritual journey back in 2014. And I say conscious because absolutely you can be spiritual your entire life, but there's like these moments where you become really aware of it, right? So, 2014 was for me that very pivotal year. And times were very different back then. In a way, they were worse, and in a way, they were better. In my opinion, they were worse because there were way less people to follow. You only had these super gurus or large accounts that had been around for quite a while already, or that were really, really pushed to enforce their own agendas. And you didn't have these smaller accounts, right? Which have a lot of truth, but like there was no way to really get them in the algorithm or anything. And in a way, they were better because the content back then wasn't as infiltrated by AI and other agendas the way it is now. And one huge agenda that came around much later than that was also the entire influencer agenda. I think that was around 2016, 2017. So there's a lot of pros and cons to being spiritually awake 10 plus years ago. But if I were to be newly aware during these times and days, these would be the three things I would focus on. First of all, how can I gain my own insights and psychically and intuitively read on my own things without needing to follow or rely on any other psychic and whatever insight they provide? Because everyone has their own innate truth. And we are able to communicate with our soul in that way. We are able to get our own insight in that way. However, for the most part, when we follow these other gurus, when we call upon all these other entities as well, we are actually blocking our own insight. And that's immense because the more we're doing that, the more we're delaying getting our own insight. And I actually teach how you can get your own insights, how you can even psychically read on people in a picture, video, everything in my intuition master course. So if you want to activate your intuition, check it out. I will put a link below this video. And I would want to tap into my own insights and learn how to do so as fast as possible, because the more you're delaying that, the more you're also delaying the process of really, standing in your own power and really seeing, like you're just bypassing the entire steps of following these gurus, falling for whatever agenda they're pushing. And you're kind of delaying the steps of, this is how actually my soul is trying to reach out to me and show me what is right and wrong and everything else. And that takes a while to learn. So I do think I actually wasted quite a few years just by not doing that. And no one really teaches you that from the start. There's very rarely are you being taught this, no matter what class, what course you take. I'm talking about all of these, let's just say, if you're trying to get into Reiki is a huge one. Even back then it was already immense. But if you're trying to get into those spiritual things or sound healing courses, all of that, like it's very hard to find someone who actually empowers your own self-sovereignty. Number two, I would learn psychic protection as fast as possible. And this is immense because if you don't, you will not understand when an attack happens. When you're basically in, let's just say you're in these group sessions with others because you found your spiritual community, whatever that is, and then a person's trying to call in angels and archangels and all these other mischievous entities and AI entities, and then you're going to be attacked or someone's going to be attacked, right? Like you will not understand what that attack looks like. That also, for me personally, took a while to figure out that this is an actual attack that's happening, because you feel safe in these settings and you're still going to get attacked because these things are not meant to be called in that way. So you need to understand, what does an attack look like? What does a spell look like? I've had them sent to me all the time, even back then, no matter how big or small this group setting is, or this person is, or, whoever's doing it. And of course, to this date, people always try to attack me as well. I catch them regularly doing that, but now I know at least what it looks like, what it feels like, and all of the things. So also, when you're trying to get your own psychic insight, let's just say you want to get into psychically reading, remote viewing, astral traveling, all of the things, you might get yourself into waters that aren't as safe, let's put it that way, meaning you might have a tracker put on you. And the tracker can come from the so-called matrix controllers. It can come from just random other AI entities. These can be government controlled, don't have to be. But if you have a tracker on you, they're going to try to make your life as miserable as possible. And that is a huge one to understand. Okay, so protection and psychic insight go hand in hand pretty much. And the third point is I would try to uncover the true gems that every single agenda is trying to distract us from. And yes, absolutely, they're out there, because we are constantly, like I already said in so many other videos, we're constantly just pushed to here, to there, left and the right, oh, there's another thing in the news that just happened. Oh, more separation agenda, this and that. And it's not just the news, but for sure, it's also like, when you follow these huge gurus or these huge people that are all out of nowhere, of course, are blowing up, and a few of them are reviewed on this channel, but there are just so many out there. You are not digging into the true spiritual concepts. 99.99% of time, you're not. And you're not digging into what's really going on in today's world, or, whatever is happening, such as these like huge rollouts that they're planning with AI, with, how can we take over the soul? How can we splinter off all these different pieces, put them in all these different realms? And then, you're just being ushered into so many different things right now where it's hard. It's hard to keep track. And the only way you're going to keep track is if you're not distracted. But especially for people, and I say this is really mostly for people who are newly awakened, but not just. I see it with a lot of people who have been so-called spiritual for even a few decades. With people who are just spiritually new in this, or newly aware, it's exciting, and you're most likely going to lose the group of community that you had before, because it's very hard to go back to someone or people who just don't understand you, right? And so it's so much easier to be ushered into a community that feels safe and nice, and oh, we're all in the same wavelength. For example, the Starseed agenda was a huge one. When I was around in 2016, 2017, all of a sudden this entire Starseed stuff was being pushed, and oh my gosh, you're one of the chosen 144,000. And I'm sure it happened before already, but that was really the pivotal year where people, like those channelers really pushed to. Elizabeth April is a huge one, which is also why I personally reviewed her as one of the first people, because I had so many interactions with this person. She gave me completely false readings. And that was like one of the first pivotal moments where I started noticing something's very off here with a lot of these people, people that are being pushed, and even smaller accounts that are just part of this entire psyop, like call it a psyop for lack of a better word. And so you're really not digging into the true spiritual concepts. If you are still concerned about whether or not a politician is on your side or not side, or if the recent death of a politician is really that relevant, you did not get the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is they're building up certain structures for control, but also certain structures to actually try to keep your essence in a certain realm. Not saying you can never get out of there. Absolutely you can. But it's a distraction from a distraction from a distraction from a distraction from a distraction. You get the point, right? So it's one distraction after another, and you can't afford to have those really in today's net, because right now they're really accelerating time more than they ever did 10 plus years ago, right? Back then, we can all feel it. Time feels really different, which is also why I made a video on how time is not what it used to be. And so we're already dealing with this accelerated time, because they have a machine where they can accelerate the seconds, the minutes, and the hours in a day. However they're doing that, it doesn't even matter for me what exactly it looks like. I know they have it. And they're throwing the Schumann resonance at us. They're throwing all this matrix machine technology at us. Whatever they're doing, they're all doing this so that you have less time in the day to be concerned with your true spirituality, your true spiritual nature, getting your own insight, and learning how to actually get out of this entire mess that we're currently finding us in. So I just wanted to make this short video on it because I think it's so crucial, especially for people who are relatively new. I know they're watching my channel, but if you know someone who's in that situation, definitely send this to them. Bypass all the mistakes and all the steps that me and also other people have made. I know a lot of people have made this because back then times were different, right? You only had a few large accounts. Like Ike was another one where, quickly you're noticing something's off with the energy, but you don't find blog posts on it the way you do now. Now you find way more things where people are starting to question. These people have started questioning a lot of other things, but sure, they're also being kept down, but at least you're able to find them if you're digging deep enough. I hope this helps someone. Thank you so much for following along, and stay tuned for more interesting content to come. I want to talk about the astrological lines that we can live on or thrive on, and all of that. I want to talk about how AI has changed since 2016 and on, and how it's actually now more meant to attack us than ever before. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, enjoy.